Sheriff Graham. Did any of you have a desire?
I'm so sad to hear that again. I forgot about that. I was feeling good there for a moment.
We love it.
Go ahead.
Doesn't bring us down. Were you ever tempted to start a script at the back to see if you survived the episode?
At the back, just to see if you
made it. You were killed in that.
Yeah, I had a friend who was on The Sopranos who said she would always read it like this, like. So funny. Yeah, I mean, I know Jamie is such a dear guy, and he's so ugly, but he's so sweet. No, he knew going in that that's where he was headed. I know that they had planned to kind of really establish the character, and then kill the character, squeeze his heart.
Yeah.
And we were sad about it. We were all really sad about it because he's a great guy. And you know, at the end of the day, obviously he was back in the family. You know, obviously in this world, anything can happen. I don't think that there's a. I'm not telling tales here just to say is that I think he could very well come back. We like him so much. He's a great guy. So. I feel your pain.
He's got a wonderful dialect. I just love it.
He's doing a great show, by the way, with the BBC, which a really wonderful miniseries, which because I saw him, and it should be out soon. If you're a fan of his, I know that you'll be able to catch that.
What is it called?
I can't remember, but I'm sure you can get
it. If you consider that fairy tales and folktales are retold stories, and that's why they persist. What ultra-modern retold stories, so the ones that we have seen and grown up with, that were new when we were kids, would you like to see incorporated into Once Upon a Time?
Give me a lightsaber, I reckon. But again, all those, the whole thing we're talking about, the hero's journey, I mean, the Joseph Campbell thing, there's only so many dramatic stories anyway. I mean, I've heard, 33, whatever it is, kind of possibilities. So every time you're kind of taking from something old and kind of reinventing the wheel. There is no old, new material in terms of the way you tell a story. In where I study acting, my teacher goes, there's only 2 scenes. There's only power scenes and seduction scenes. That's it. So you gotta figure out what you're doing. Are you going for power? Are you trying to seduce? Are you trying to be seduced? Or is it a power struggle? So I mean, there's ways of kind of like, if you're a mathematician, of reducing it to the lowest common denominator in all source material. So I think the key thing, and I know when I try and do some writing, is keep it simple, right? Don't get too complicated. Elmore Leonard says about writing. He says, people, when you read a book, there's whole stuff that they skip. So Elmore Leonard just doesn't write that stuff, okay? And I think that has a lot to do with it. We're trying to tell our stories in this series in 42 minutes. So the scripts come in a lot longer than that, and we're always getting edited down. So you never know exactly what moment's gonna be the one they keep. So you gotta be on your game and try and get all your moments in the show. And I think that makes it really exciting, because everyone's like, oh God, maybe I'll lose that scene. You never know. Because it's a time issue. It doesn't matter about performance. It's just a matter of if they only need 42 minutes of TV.
There were some episodes that came in, I know this because I was on the receiving end of this. One was 22 minutes long.
Wow.
So you figure it's almost an entire additional episode. They actually talked about trying to do an hour-and-a-half episode and couldn't get permission with the network, but they have made cuts to storylines and characters or episodes that I was in that I think on the DVD, I haven't seen them yet, but that they that they cut them out because there just wasn't time. So I guess one of the, I can sort of say and perhaps sort of sell you, as it were, the DVD is that there's material there that they put back because they don't have the time constraints of those commercials that we love so much. Those, of course, are what finance the show, but they do make it a tight 43 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times the cuts will come even in a speech. So it's sometimes hard to watch yourself do it on the TV because you know what you actually did, and you're trying to find those moments, and you're like, that beat's coming in, they squish it, it's all packed in, and there's not a lot of air in the show, so whenever you get a chance to breathe, I mean, part of that's built in a way to create the tension in the story, but at the same time, a lot of it's just a matter that they write so much for it.
One of our directors was going off to do a cable show, and he said, God, I got a whole 20 minutes that I get to fill. I don't have to worry about it. I can take time. You know, because cable shows are straight through 60 minutes or 59. But he was so excited because he could actually tell the story with lingering moments and sort of maybe, people actually had a thought. You didn't have to keep cutting it, which is sometimes what we have to do on our show.
And you sort of have to know where you sit placement-wise, too. You know, very often in scripts there's an A story and a B story, and it's fine. So it doesn't hurt to have an awareness of that, and although you could, widen your scene and fill it with all of this other stuff that's very, very interesting, if you read the script carefully, you know, okay, this needs to be compact because it's not going to be there. They're not going to let you do it. It's gone, And as they were saying, it is surprising sometimes to think, oh no, they didn't. They cut that section, but then this won't make sense because I was, but of course it does. It does, and we get attached to stuff sometimes.
I mean, we are actors. We are, we're a little crazy.
Go ahead.
With such iconic stories and iconic characters in those stories that everyone knows and generations have grown up with and know a certain way, how did it feel to take on these characters, and were you ever nervous about how they'd be perceived in a slightly new light?
For me, it was not really an issue because I knew when they cast me that I couldn't do, the classic Geppetto. It just wasn't me. And actually, the classic Geppetto is supposed to be actually blonde, graying blonde hair, and it's sort of like a polenta head. And that's the whole thing in Italy. And I thought, oh great, well I can't do that, so there's no way of copying anything. So I was liberated by it. And as actually the woman who asked the question yesterday, who was upset at Geppetto's behavior, came and we spoke today, and she apologized. I found that for our conversation. Of course, I just laughed because there was nothing there. I love the fact that they made him tough. So I realized in the writing that I could take it wherever. And all you ask for as an actor, even oddly enough in a fairy book character, is a kind of humanity, which means a kind of a dark and light. It's just hard to play the same color all the time, and that's what makes Lana so effective. It would be excruciatingly boring for Lana to have to play the bad queen all the time until you find out where she's coming from, and that's what makes it really sort of wonderfully deep. So.
In answer to your question, yes, at the top, when when you realize you're Jiminy Cricket and you're essentially everyone's sort of idea of a conscience and a beloved character, one of the probably 3 or 4 major Disney characters. I went on Wikipedia and I did your research and it's talked about how it was originally in the book, the Colodal book, and he was a very peripheral character. And then when Walt Disney did the screenplay, they brought the character and they sort of made the character much bigger. And then at the very end they said, and soon to be seen on Once Upon a Time, portrayed by Raphael Sparge. I went, oh no. I didn't want to read that. Because then you sort of feel, well, to use a phrase, dwarfed by essentially the enormity of it. But, look, again, what they've done is they've carved out their own vision of these characters. And again, they've done so with such integrity. And just to speak to the very specific journey of Jiminy, I mean, the evolution of a conscience, meaning knowing right from wrong, could so easily be treacly, I want to say, or do it because I said so or something. And the fact that it was ultimately born of one of the really sad stories that we did last year. I mean, just that he really suffered and still lives with this huge shadow of kind of having done this thing wrong, which came back in our episode and will be coming back again next season. Some of these kind of sense of kind of like his knowing right from wrong came from having done wrong, and then trying to then really make it right. Again, because they've carved something out, which is, I don't know, again, filled with humanity and quite touching. It gives us, anyway, in the playing of it, something to hold on to, and it doesn't feel like, I didn't feel like quite such the target. You know, I felt like I could sort of go to battle with something armed.
No, I wasn't scared of it. But I'd done it before with pirates, you know, so I'd already encountered this thing, and one of the things that I'm most concerned about in playing a character that everyone already loves is that, at least let's start it out where we know these guys write in stuff that you know already about Grumpy to be true. He knows Pal, he lives with these dwarves, they're miners. All the truths are essential truths to the Disney mythos of this character, right? I mean, this was a Walt creation anyway. He made up these names. They didn't have names, I guess, before. He created it. So in essence, it's like, look, I looked at it as an opportunity. You know, one man's scary challenge is another man's opportunity. I choose to always look at it as an opportunity. You know, I like this game. There's a baseball. I like to play a lot of sports, right? And I use this analogy about acting. It's like when if you're a baseball player in the Dominican Republic, right? You're a free swinger. Why do you swing at a ball above your head or below your knees? It's definitely a ball, because you can't walk off the island. The only way you're getting to the big leagues is to learn how to crush that ball. You ain't gonna get picked up if you're just like a no-hit, like to walk second baseman. Those kids know how to rip the ball, and that's my attitude about this game. Just don't mistake my kindness for weakness, and you won't have a problem with me. But if you think you're gonna run me over, I'm gonna smack you down.